If you're 85...
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hey, this is John Preston, Marine Combat veteran and Pacific Records recording artist. Just reaching out to have you check out our new album, Battle Cry, Songs of America's Heroes, an album featuring phenomenal other combat veteran artists like Scott Brown of the Scooter Brown Band, Ryan Weaver, Rowdy Johnson, just an incredible mix of people. This is all veterans telling our stories and our lives, and we're giving 100% of our proceeds to the Valkyrie Initiative to help veterans and first responders integrate back into society. I myself have battled with post-traumatic stress for many years and lost my own brother, a Marine Corps veteran, to suicide. I ask that you step with us and make this happen. We are in pre-order right now and release on March 17th. Go to iTunes, go to Amazon, buy. We plan on making the charts and making it at a very high level, and your support right now makes a difference. This is the release of my new song, Superman Falls, which is actually about the loss of my own brother, which happened last year, and I would love for everyone to check it out, to listen, and hopefully it'll make a difference in many lives.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
Sometimes riders get lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Called the USA, and we fly our flag cause we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of life. Never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans. We fish the waters and we hunt the lands. We forge the steel with our own two hands. With what we've got, we do the best we can, we're Americans.
This is Rio of Madison Rising, and you're listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show. Now, here's Grouchy.
Good evening, everybody. I am having all kinds of trouble tonight, and it's all my fault, just as usual. I am scrambling to get my notes, which I left at work. I am trying to remote access my computer at work so I can get those notes. So I'm going to ask you all to bear with me for a minute here while I try not to go into a cussing convulsion.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Ain't nobody got time for my stupidity. You are absolutely right. I am so lucky to have the boss, Rowdy Rick, on the other end of the line, willing to help out and do what he can for me. He knows I'm spinning right here.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking.
Yeah, I should have one too. I'm literally working right now to attach the right file and get it sent to myself so that we can pull this off.
Sending files to yourself sounds a little dirty.
It really does, but if this works...
Oh, no more Yankee, my Winky.
Exactly. This could be classic, saving the show. And...
So do you remember anything about what was in your notes?
Oh yeah, I mean we're gonna talk some healthcare now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We're definitely gonna jump into the American Health Care Act, and we're gonna talk about the good side, the bad side, what it does do, what it doesn't do.
Wait, there's
one versus the other.
Wait, there's a good side?
Well, they say there is, and we're gonna discuss it. I mean, can't hurt to discuss it, right? And that's what we're all about, is digging the facts up and getting everything right. So let's hash it out. Let's put them side by side and compare it, see what we all think. I can tell you what my biggest problem with this American Health Care Act is, and that is the fact that it's still government in healthcare. And, oh my God, my notes just showed up on my screen. I'm so happy. I can't believe this worked. Wow. Okay. So, yeah. So, yeah, here we go. The concurrent resolution on the budget for fiscal year 17 directed the House Committees on Ways and Means and Energy and Commerce to develop legislation to reduce the deficit. Sounds harmless enough, right? Trump did say he was going to reduce the deficit after all. The Congressional Budget Office and the staff on the Joint Committee on Taxation have produced an estimate of the budgetary effects of the American Health Care Act, which combines the pieces of legislation approved by the two committees pursuant to that resolution. Okay, you following? So, in consultation with the budget committees, the Congressional Budget Office used its March 2016 baseline with adjustments for subsequently enacted legislation, which underlies the resolution as the benchmark to measure the cost of the legislation. Okay, I get it. So they're saying that A is our benchmark, and we've already factored in all this other stuff that Obama did before you took office, and that's the line we're going to use, and anything that would add to that line, we're going to say is the cost of legislation. I get it. All right? So, the effects of the American Health Care Act on the federal budget. Well, the CBO and the JCT estimate that by enacting the legislation, they would reduce federal deficits by $337 billion over a 10-year period, 2017 to 2026. Now, that number is $323 billion in on-budget savings and $13 billion in off-budget savings. Okay? Outlays would be reduced by $1.2 trillion over the same period of time, and revenues would be reduced by $0.9 trillion or $900 billion over the same time. The largest savings come from reductions in outlays for Medicaid and from the elimination of the Affordable Care Act's subsidies for non-group health insurance, aka where the government robs from everybody that has insurance to give to everybody that doesn't. Illegal taxation that was improperly upheld by the Supreme Court. And don't hand me the crap about the 9 robes being the final say-so. They are not the final say-so. Now, before we got started into all this tonight, Rick was so welcome to jump in and help me out when I couldn't get my notes and I didn't have them, and now that I have them, Rick, I just want to let you know, I know you're out there. You might be eating, you might be getting something to drink. I don't know. You're sitting there listening. You're for your show later tonight, America Off the Rails. Great program. Stay tuned. But if you want to jump in anywhere during this, if you think of something that I'm missing, jump in, brother.
Certainly will, sir.
Okay. So, as I was saying, the largest cost would come from repealing many of the changes that the ACA made to the Internal Revenue Code, including an increase in the hospital insurance payroll tax for high-income taxpayers, which is basically a surtax on taxpayers' net investment income and annual fees imposed on health insurers, and from the establishment of a new tax credit for health insurance. So pay-as-you-go procedures apply because enacting the legislation would affect direct spending and revenues. So again, CBO and JCT estimate that enacting the legislation would not increase net direct spending or on-budget deficits by more than $5 billion in any of the 4 consecutive 10-year periods beginning in 2027. This is a good thing. They're saying that less than a $5 billion increase in a year or in a 10-year period over a 4-decade time span. Think about that. So that's less than $20 billion over 40 years is their estimate on this. That is not bad, folks. That beats inflation hands down. Okay? But this is strictly budgetary now. Okay? This is all bottom line, red and black ink type stuff. All right? So we have to move on to the human side of it. Because there are, there is a human side to health insurance and health care. And let's not conflate the two as being the same thing, because they're not. What the ACA did was it forced people to purchase a product under penalty of law for not purchasing it, and they made the prices so bad, the prices were so high, and the premiums and the deductibles were so high, that when people bought insurance, they couldn't actually afford health care. All right, so we're going to see if this does anything to rectify that situation. So to estimate the budgetary effects on the insurance coverage side of it, CBO and JCT projected how the legislation would change the number of people who obtain federally subsidized health insurance through Medicaid, the non-market group, and the employment-based market, as well as other factors. So here's those numbers. They're estimating that in 2018, 14 million more people would be uninsured under the legislation than under current law. Now, they're saying that most of that increase would stem from repealing the penalties associated with the individual mandate, and that these people would choose not to have insurance because they choose to be covered by insurance under current law only to avoid paying the penalties. And some people would forego insurance in response to higher premiums. No kidding. Especially young people who don't need it as much. Now, later, following additional changes to subsidies for the insurance purchased in the non-group market and to the Medicaid program, the increase in the number of uninsured people relative to the number under current law would rise to 21 million in 2020 and then to 24 million in 2016. Now, that sounds like a horrific number, okay? But it's not as bad as all that when you consider that there are still 18 million people in this country without insurance. So it's not that big of an increase when you look at the whole big ball of wax. Now, the reductions in insurance coverage between 2018 and 2026 would stem in large part from changes in Medicaid enrollment, because some states would discontinue their expansion of eligibility. Some states that would have expanded eligibility in the future would choose not to do so, and the per enrollee spending in the program would be capped. Okay? So what we're talking about here is the federal government is going to stop feeding Medicaid and leave it with states. So here's what you're going to see. You're going to see state budgets are going to start imploding because of this. So what are states going to do to stem this from happening? State can't let their budget implode. So what are they going to do? Well, they're going to pass the burden along to us. Proportionately per person in your state, your taxes will increase. This is the nature of the beast of this plan. Okay? So the federal government will be able to throw its hands in the air and say, hey, we got the federal government out of healthcare, basically. But they didn't. Okay, they didn't. It's not a workable plan, really, and you can't I'm not really faulting them for trying to come up with a plan. What I want to fault them for is for not going after the repeal, the full outright repeal of the ACA. Now, I know you hear Ryan talking about, we can't do it. We can't do it. Well, I'd like to know something. If you can't do it, what in the hell did you spend over 90 votes for in the last Congress in session voting to repeal it for?
Look, sister, is any of this filtering through that little blue bonnet of yours?
Really, I got to know. Was that just lip service to the American people? Why did you spend so much time and waste so much money when you could have been doing much better things with both instead of taking votes that were meaningless? And then when you actually have a majority in both houses and the White House to pass the bill on to for repeal, you won't repeal. Now, you can have your little powwows up there in D.C., Speaker Ryan and Majority Leader McConnell. You guys can meet with Trump and tell him, we can't do this. No, we really can't do this because of this and because of that. Here's the thing. You've had 7 freaking years. 7! And you people can't even come up with a plan that you agree on now. Absolutely livid over this. This should not only be pissing off people on the left because, look, say what you want to about them. They have warped political views, and a lot of them have warped personal values and morals. I get it, okay? I do. I look at a lot of people that are leftists, and I wonder how they function in the world. That's just the nature of being a conservative. You know your head is screwed on straight. You understand what our Constitution says. But even on the left, there are decent people that care. Okay? So we can pick on their politics all we want to. But I get where they're coming from in their concern. Here's my concern, is that the ACA should have never been passed to begin with. The government does not have an enumerated power to involve itself in health care. Get the freak out of the business. Now, does that mean that the government can't be involved in helping shape the healthcare and insurance industries to take care of people? They don't have to legislate health care, but they could stop things like the monopolies and the price fixing. These would be brilliant. You know who you know who the biggest unregulated industry in the country is? It's the health insurance industry. It's the health insurance industry. They're let to run wild. All it would take is some constitutionally minded politicians to form some common sense, constitution-conforming legislation to help health care insurance companies and health care agencies provide affordable care. The big thing over and over I've been hearing over the last week, look at LASIK eye surgery when it first came out. compared to what it is today. Now you can get it done for about $250 an eye. You know, it was $5,000 an eye when they first started the business, but the competition grew. The competition grew and the cost came down. Now I know what you're saying. Oh yeah, well, what about the butchers out there that are blinding people? You know what? That could happen anywhere. There's a risk of that anytime you go under LASIK surgery. But for people that are in poor practices, they have to insure themselves against that. Where am I going? Yes, we're heading to tort reform because that plays into this too. Obnoxious, ignorant sums of money that medical professionals get sued for. Okay, the negligence cases, I get it. I really do. And I say gut them when they're truly proven to be negligent. Gut them. But when every effort is made and the worst still happens, we need some reform there. Not that the family doesn't deserve something. Okay? But you also have to understand, you have a choice. You don't have to let that doctor do the surgery. You don't have to have the surgery. You do have a choice. The choice may suck, but you still have one. And you need to be responsible for that choice. Okay? And I'm not saying you shouldn't walk away without something when the worst happens like that. But what I'm saying is we do need some reform. You know, you go in to have your right leg amputated and they take your left. Okay, yeah, we got a big problem there. But if they go in to amputate your right leg and they take your right leg, and when they're in there, they realize that whatever it is that's causing the amputation has spread and they have to do more, and it leaves you in a completely incapacitated state where maybe you have to lose the other leg too. Okay, you can't turn around and go after them for that. Sorry. Sometimes crap happens. Now, let's get back to American Health Care Act. We've covered this for long enough. I get off track too easy because there's so much that ties into this stuff. You just don't realize that the healthcare industry and the health insurance industry, when you mold it all together into one big ball of wax, this is over 20% of our gross domestic product in this country. You're talking about just a little more than 1/5 of our economy is related to this. It's huge. It's not huge. This isn't a joke. It's huge. And it's, first of all, we're at the bottom of the hour.
Dirty Persian shark, a back flat, important Philip Martin.
Exactly. All right, we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue this. We got to get into the pros and cons. We got to get into what it does, what it doesn't do. We need to know all this. So stay tuned. We'll try to make this as short as we can. Be right back.
Oh, but ain't that America? For you and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Oh, but ain't that America? You and me. Ain't that
All right, welcome back. No, Seymour, get the glass out of here. We're not breaking more glass. Go away. We got too much to do. Sorry.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
That's right. Anyway, so we're going to continue on here. What they're also talking about with the American Health Care Act is what it will do to stabilize the health insurance market. So decisions about offering and purchasing health insurance depend on the stability of the health insurance market. That is, excuse me, on having insurers participating in most areas around the country and on the likelihood of premiums not rising in an unsustainable spiral. Sound familiar? Like what's going on right now. The Democrats, they just want to attack what they don't like about this bill instead of addressing what's wrong with the current one. They don't want to talk about that. So the market for insurance purchased individually, this is the non-group coverage, would be unstable, for example, if the people who wanted to buy coverage at any offered price would have average health care expenditure so high that offering the insurance would be unprofitable. So in the assessment, the non-group market would probably be stable in most areas under either current law or the new legislation. But I don't see how. See, under the current law, most subsidized enrollees purchasing healthcare insurance coverage in the non-group market are largely insulated from increases in premiums because of their out-of-pocket payments for premiums are based on a percentage of their income. Oh, so that's why. Because they're counting on us to keep paying the higher subsidies to cover them. See, no, we're going to stick on topic. Never mind, sticking on topic. So the subsidies to purchase penalties paid by uninsured people stemming from the individual mandate are anticipated to cause sufficient demand for insurance by people with low health care expenditures for the market to be stable. Again, you're talking about trying to set a table for people that aren't coming to dinner for 10 years and saying that it's going to work. So under the new legislation, in the agency's view, and this is the CBO and the JCT, the key factors bringing about market stability include subsidies to purchase insurance, which would maintain sufficient demand for insurance by people with low health care expenditures, and grants to states from the Patient and State Stability Fund, which would reduce the cost to insurers of people with high health care expenditures. Even though the new tax credits would be structured differently from the current subsidies and would generally be less generous for those receiving subsidies under the current law, the other changes would, in the agency's view, lower average premiums enough to attract a sufficient number of relatively healthy people to stabilize the market. So again, this is a backdoor subsidy. They're getting rid of the individual mandate per se, but they're subsidizing through the back door without taking it directly out of your wallet that way. They're taking it directly out of your wallet another way. So what's the effect on premiums? Well, the legislation would tend to increase average premiums in the non-group market prior to 2020 and lower average premiums thereafter. Relative to projections under the current law, in 2018 and 2019, according to CBO and JCT's estimate, average premiums for single policyholders in the non-group market would be 15 to 20% higher than under current law, mainly because the individual mandate penalties would be eliminated, inducing fewer comparatively healthy people to sign up. There you have it. So starting in 2020, the increase in average premiums from repealing the individual mandate penalties would be more than offset by the combination of several factors that would decrease those premiums, including the grants, which we talked about, the backdoor subsidy, which CBO and JCT expect to largely be used by states to limit the cost to insurers of enrollees with very high claims. The elimination of the requirement for insurers to offer plans covering certain percentages of the cost of covered benefits, and a younger mix of enrollees. By 2026, average premiums for single policyholders in the non-group market under the new legislation would be roughly 10% lower than under current law. But here's the problem, okay? Here's the problem. CBO and JCT have both routinely missed the annual percentage of increases in the ACA by double digits every year since its inception. So there's no way that they're dead on about this. There's no way. Now, could they be off on a bad side? They could. They could. You know, it could be that it's not 10% lower. It could be that it's 2% lower. It could be that it's 10% higher. It could be that it's 20% lower. We don't know because they're so bad at doing their job, but they're the only official agencies out there tasked at doing this. Other than that, you have to look at people like the Kaiser Family Foundation, and they routinely do much better work, by the way, but their report is not ready to go yet. So although average premiums would increase leading up to 2020 and decrease starting in 2020, CBO and JCT estimate that the changes in premiums relative to those under the current law would differ significantly for people of different ages because of a change in age rating rules. Okay, so older, more sickly enrollees would be paying more in the future. Okay, so there is, they even go into a part of the report here that talks about the uncertainty surrounding the estimates. We don't have to go into all that. We're already working on limited time here, but macroeconomic effects. So because of the magnitude of the budgetary effects involved with this legislation is major as defined in the rules of the House of Representatives. Hence, it triggers the requirement that the cost estimate, to the greatest extent practicable, include the budgetary impact of its macroeconomic effects. But because the very short time available to prepare this cost estimate, quantifying and incorporating all those effects is not very practicable. So anyway, you get the idea here. What's going on in Congress over this? Well, the legislation is meeting more and more stiff resistance, especially from the Senate side. I'm assuming that what's going to happen is the House will end up passing this thing, and then the Senate is probably going to nearly eviscerate it. And I have a feeling that what the Senate will send back to the House is going to look a lot more like what Rand Paul is talking about than what Paul Ryan is talking about. Tom Cotton, he did an interview the other day, and he was asked what he would say to Ryan if he were speaking directly to Ryan. And Cotton said he would tell him to take a pause and lower the stakes, that we don't need to meet arbitrary legislative deadlines. What we need to do is keep our promise to make health care more affordable, more accessible, and hassle-free for all Americans. You missed one thing, Tom, okay? And I'm in favor of what you're saying here, but you missed the one big thing. Rick, what have we been saying ever since they started talking about this? What's the one thing he didn't say?
You kind of caught me flat-footed. I was working on something.
That's okay. That's okay. See, that's why he's the best, folks. He's already working on his show, which doesn't happen for another 3 hours. Anyway, what he didn't say is he didn't say we needed to get government out of the damn healthcare business. This is what I'm waiting to hear. Why?
Never going to happen.
Why? I understand. I understand because it has been set up as an entitlement program, and those never go away once the government puts them in place for Americans. They just don't. And I get that, and I hate that, and I want to see one finally make history and go away. And this needs to be it. Okay? And folks, I'm still efforting to have an economics expert on one night. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but he is. It's a recognizable name. If you watch any kind of shows on finance, you know he'll be the guy that we need to talk to. But we're going to talk about this because our entitlements, even though our economy, I got to stop rambling. We'll do economy another night. How about that? We'll get them on. Don't worry about it. We'll make it happen. But the legislation that's been introduced can be a starting point, but it needs major changes cut and continued. Those changes can be perused and analyzed and tested at hearings. Then we can move forward with a more deliberative fashion in committee to propose amendments and cast votes, so we're not rushing through in the dark of night 36 hours after the bill is introduced. Then the Senate can take the same process, and we can work out what differences we might have that ultimately would yield the right result, even if it takes a little bit longer. Our healthcare system has had many problems for many years now, well before Obamacare, and Obamacare has done nothing but exacerbate those problems. So what we need to do is focus on the legislation and not on arbitrary deadlines and get the problems solved. Okay? So we've got Ryan rushing the American Health Care Act, or as some people have called it, Obamacare 2.0 or Obamacare Light. I've heard it called Ryan Care. I've heard it called Trump Care. Whatever you care to call it, this bill as it exists right now is not the answer. It is not the answer. It's merely a suggestion. Okay? So this bill is going to push through the House. This is what I'm guessing, like I said. And it's going to make it to the Senate. And the Senate is going to eviscerate it. And the House bill as drafted will not deliver on the main promises that Trump made during the campaign, nor will it deliver on the promises that most congressional Republicans ran on, which is making health care affordable, keeping it accessible, reducing the level of stress and hassle in the lives of Americans, and repealing the Affordable Care Act. This is not that hard. You can't say, we did away with this, this, and this, therefore we kept our promise. No, sir. No, sir, that does not wash. You can't introduce major legislation on a Monday night and vote on it Wednesday morning without even have time to process it, unless your name is Nancy Pelosi and you have to pass it to find out what's in it. And you talk about hypocrisy, demanding that we wait for this and we examine that, and we don't have the right to rush this. Hypocrite, lacking complete self-awareness. Okay, so I do agree with Cotton on the one front that we do need to take a pause and get healthcare reform right. The way to get it right is to get government out of it. Can't say it enough. And this bill, as introduced, does not repeal Obamacare, as its proponents falsely claim. It only amends it. It keeps Obamacare's Cadillac tax and individual mandate. With the individual mandate for people who choose not to buy insurance, the bill merely shifts the penalty from Obamacare's government-collected tax to a fee collected by insurance companies. This is your backdoor subsidy to the people that are paying. Now, this is how they get their money now, though. They're going to start taking it. There are many more issues with the bill, but the individual mandate question is one that Cotton is particularly concerned about. He went on to say this: "This is one small instance of a provision I don't think we understand in this bill. It creates a kind of tax credit to help low-income Americans afford their health care, and it pays it to the insurance companies, not to the taxpayers, not to the Americans who need it to buy health insurance or pay for health care. I don't understand why we would take that approach. That's one of the problems with Obamacare, including too many giveaways to insurance companies." Now, Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, he did his own interview. He's calling for Trump to support the 2015 bill, in which both chambers of Congress voted successfully to repeal Obamacare, and then do a separate replacement bill the same day. Not bad. Not bad. Cotton said that he's open to this idea, but he wants everybody to think about this and slow down. And when asked if he backed Senator Paul's idea for Obamacare repeal and replacement, he said, "I'm open to lots of legislative approaches, except for the ramming through major legislation in 36 hours in the dark of night." And if you remember, it doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter that we're conservatives, that we call ourselves Republicans, that we call ourselves libertarians or Democrats or leftists or socialists or communists or idiots or anything else that's applicable. And yeah, I grouped those together on purpose. But here's the thing. We shouldn't want our government, regardless of who the majority in the elected houses are right now, to ram anything through. We shouldn't want that. We deserve better than that. We the people deserve to be in charge of what they pass, not them telling us what we're going to eat. Okay? He says we ought not to do it on spending bills, but we surely ought not to do it on health care reforms. And I agree. So let's get down to some brass tacks here. Let me move into this here. Here's a rundown. Okay, this is a quick rundown of the American Health Care Act. And this is what it repeals. Okay, it repeals the penalties for the individual and employer mandates. It doesn't repeal. It lessens the fines for not complying with the mandates to $0 effective December 31st, 2015. This provision provides retroactive relief for consumers who did not have coverage in 2016 and are filing their taxes now. Nice. It repeals the Obamacare subsidies beginning in 2020. It repeals Medicaid expansions beginning in 2020. It repeals the Cadillac tax on expensive employer-sponsored plans until 2025. So it's just a pause. It repeals all of Obamacare's taxes effective after 2017. And it repeals payments to insurers for cost-sharing reductions by 2020. Okay, that's what it repeals. Now, here's what it replaces. Advanceable refundable tax credits based on one's age. Under 30, $2,000. Between 30 and 39, $2,500. 40 to 49 is $3,000. 50 to 59, $3,500. And over 60, $4,000. The credits are available in full to individuals making up to $75,000 and families making up to $150,000. For every $1,000 in income higher than those thresholds, the credits decrease by $100. Expanded health savings accounts. The American Health Care Act increases the maximum contributions to health savings accounts or medical savings accounts to $6,550 for individuals and $13,100 for families beginning in 2018. Protections for consumers with pre-existing conditions. Okay, what does it replace that with? Now, I've never really understood this part of it. Why? Why should you be allowed to go without insurance and then get sick and then buy insurance and get to pay the same thing as a healthy person? Okay? Why should you? First of all, I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. You're not going to get me again. You're not going to get me again. Anyway, we'll stop right there. Continuous coverage requirement. Okay, it's supposed to replace that. Regardless of whether they're healthy or have a pre-existing condition, Americans must maintain continuous coverage. If there is a lapse in coverage for longer than 63 days, individuals will face a 30% surcharge from insurers. I can buy that. Okay? So you're basically being incentivized to keep coverage. Age ratio of 5 to 1 for how much more insurers can charge elderly customers versus young customers. Yeah, I don't know how a ratio works across the board. I just don't know. Next up, per capita caps for Medicaid, which depend on each state's number of enrollees beginning in 2020. Funds for states to set up high-risk pools, reduce out-of-pocket costs, or stabilize health insurance markets. A one-year freeze on government funding to Planned Parenthood. Now, this I like. Here's an interesting one. Okay, this is also something that popped up over the last week. Is that apparently there's a rumor running around that the White House talked to Planned Parenthood and offered to keep them at current funding levels if they eliminated abortion. Now, here's the kicker, okay? This really puts them on the spot because they claim that only 3% of their business is abortion. So why would you cling to 3% of your business versus all your federal funding, all your billions of dollars in federal funding? Why would you cling to 3% of your business for that? This just goes to show you that they're not interested in anything other than killing and selling the parts of babies. Now, what the American Care Act bill would leave in place: essential health benefits requirements, which they didn't elaborate on, letting young adults remain on their parents' plans until age 26, which I just don't know about that. I really don't. I think there should be some exceptions. I think you should have to be a student or like in the Peace Corps or something along those lines. Otherwise, you need to be a working adult and paying for your own insurance. And the last thing that it says it leaves in place is the tax exclusion for employer-sponsored coverage. And again, no elaborating. But what we do know is that concerning a full repeal of Obamacare, we were promised a full repeal in 2010, 2012, 2014, and 2016. And these were not lighthearted promises. These were very powerful promises from members of Congress and the United States Senate from across the political spectrum of Republicans. And that's all the way from Squishes to Ted Cruz's and Mike Lee's. The voters give Republicans in Congress. The voters give the Senate the Republicans, and the voters gave the White House a Republican. And all of a sudden, the establishment comes up with a whole lot of reasons why we can't do what we've been promising the American people for 7 years. So yeah, I'm going to express some disappointment at all these years of promises from Republicans to repeal and replace Obamacare, only to now produce a bill that, I mean, let's face it, it falls short. Disappointment is a term that's probably adequate enough, but not adequate enough, if you know what I mean. You can be disappointed on a lot of different levels, and I am truly, deeply disappointed. Republicans in 2015 voted pretty much to fully repeal Obamacare, and I don't understand why they couldn't, other than President Obama not signing it, citing years of Obamacare GOP repeal votes. Again, they vote for this over and over. There are over 90 votes in Congress to repeal Obamacare over the years. And now that we have Republicans in control of the House, the Senate, and the White House, and they have a chance to do this right and get it done, they back down. They're letting the American people down. It's unfortunate, but I will say it's typical of recent Republican leadership in Congress. Folks, I'm all about a full repeal. I'm all about a full replace, as long as the replace has a mechanism to eventually get government out of the healthcare business. You don't have to agree. Do your own homework, as usual. I tell you this all the time. Think for yourself. Show me two people that agree on everything. I'll show you one that does all the thinking. That is it for me tonight, folks. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry about the little delay getting started. Coming up next is Jesse's POV, followed by Constitution and Culture, followed by America Off the Rails. It is the Grand Slam of Conservative Talk Radio right here on KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign. I'm about to raise. But I'm the Grouch. Thank you for being here. God bless. We'll see you soon.
Oh, but ain't that America? You and me. Ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.